believe in yourself and rely on yourself. No one is going to look after you the way you can look after yourself, because no one's going to come believe for you. Okay. You have to do it.
Yes.
Some say you have to choose between being the perfect professional woman or being the bad girl. But we're here to tell you, you can be both. I'm Rajs Patel.
And I'm Ebony Lukovitz. And this is A Bad Girl's Guide to Business, a podcast for bad bitches who want to create lives they love and incredible businesses. Hi, baddies. Welcome back to A Bad Girl's Guide to Business. We are so happy to have you here. And hopefully you had a chance to listen to our first two episodes where Raj and I gave you our whole life story, very abridged versions. But today we want to talk about our top lessons and takeaways from our first year in business, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm actually really proud of us for reaching this 1 year moment. And so today we're going to tell you, a little bit more about our businesses, what we've learned, and hope you can take lots of value away from it. Raj, do you want to tell us a little bit about Zakari, your baby?
Absolutely. My baby. Yes. Okay. So, I think we've both hit really, really great milestones in the first year. And I think that we're going to share some really great insights. But what we've both discovered is that our business models are really different. And what that means is how we're scaling and how we're generating revenue. So for me, for Zakari Consulting, I'm moving to a more cohort business model where I'm able to work with many people and be able to charge somewhat of a lower rate. And then I'm working one-on-one with clients who are paying me considerably more, or they're offering me a share in their company, which is, led really nicely to my growth plan for the second year, because I've got, shares in a couple of companies now already, and my business is growing exponentially. So I'm like, this is working great. So that's a little bit about my business model now.
Amazing. I can't believe we're here. Why don't you tell us though, like what exactly Zakari does, what you do? Tell us about your magical superpowers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for the people who didn't hear it in episode 2, just a quick recap. Zakari Consulting is the leading sales and revenue firm. I work with clients either in the B2B space or in the B2C space, but predominantly with creatives, those professionals who have really started out their entrepreneurial journey or their small business journey and really need help in generating revenue, because sales really underpins everything you do and is the bloodline of your company.
I love that. And I also love that we started working together when I asked for your help selling.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
how did you, I'm obsessed with the name Zakari. I think it's like so mysterious and elegant. And how did you come up with the name Zakari?
Okay. So
break it down for us.
And the name is very close and dear to my heart. And I'm so happy you said that. It sounds wonderful and luxurious, but it's actually a combination of my dog and my 2 cats' names. And I love them and I'm obsessed with them. Enzi, Carly, and Perry. And I amalgamated it together with one of my other best friends. We sat there for like 2 weeks trying to come up with so many different names.
Yeah.
And then Zakari was born. And, I wouldn't name my third baby anything else. Zakari it is.
That's amazing. I know. I love it too. It's perfect.
Great question. Actually, great question.
I was a journalist for a decade, and if I didn't learn how to ask good questions, then that would be concerning. That's amazing. And our businesses are quite different in that I have a PR agency or a communications agency. So we provide our services to very fast growing tech and crypto companies. And so I am building a bit of a pyramid scheme where I am at the top and I have all these incredible people that I'm working with and hiring. So we just brought on our first full-time employee a couple of weeks ago, and I'll talk about that process later on in the episode, which is a total rock star. So I'm building a company where I'll be responsible for hiring and managing and mentoring lots of people, which is a really daunting task. And I also, like don't feel very confident in my managerial skills, and that's something that I really want to develop. But yeah, so those are our two babies, and I can't believe we're here at a year.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
How did you come up with Eden? Because I know how you came up with Eden. I remember this story, but tell the people.
Yeah. So my name these days is Ebony Lukowitz. I took my lovely Jewish Polish husband's name and have destined myself for a life of people not knowing how to spell or say my last name. The things we do for love. But my maiden name before I was married was Ebony Bowden. And I also was struggling to name the agency. And I didn't want to be like one of those people that names their businesses after them, because I was just like, I'm not like that into myself or my name. And also, if I ever want to sell the company, which we're now working toward, it's better not to have your name attached to the business. And so a girlfriend of mine, a really amazing friend of mine who we worked at the New York Post together, she was like, take the start of your name and the end of your name and smush them together. So Eden is actually a portmanteau of Ebony Bowden Eden. So it's the start of my name and the end of my maiden name. And I was like, that's really clever. So Eden Communications was born. I love it. Hopefully one day we'll be like Prince and we can just go by Eden. And then we'll just go by a symbol. But so Eden is the company, and I love it. It's memorable. It's simple. It's great.
Perfect.
It's great.
It's
Some
perfect.
people do, because my name is Ebony and the company's called Eden. There is a bit of confusion where sometimes people will address me as Eden in emails, or they'll think I'm It's like whatever. But yeah, so that's how it works. We named our babies, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really freaking matter what your company is called. Like, I could have called it like
as long
whatever.
as you start it. Exactly.
I could have called it like Bob's Public Relations, and people still would have like sought us out if our results were good. So yeah, I'm really excited by this episode because I'm like reflecting on the last year and a half, and there are so many incredible highs and lows. I'm like thinking of just crushing defeat and incredible wins and closing big deals, and just the amount of growth that I've gone through over the last year and a half. And I think the most incredible thing about entrepreneurship and starting a business is how much you are developed as a person during that process, and how you have to go through so much adversity. You have to develop tenacity and grit. And I just am it's remarkable how much confidence in myself I've developed over the last year. And I'm sure you can relate to this.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud
Thank
of you.
you.
I mean, I've always been in awe of you as a woman, as my dear sister. I always call you my next of kin, everything. My sister, my lover, my mother, everything in one.
Lover, wife, sister.
Everything in one. But what you've really done exceptionally well is start this business, hold your head up high, and you have ridden the waves, and there's been adversity and there's been a lot of setbacks, but you've just pushed through, and that's been truly inspirational, because I started my business 6 months after you because you hired me. And I was on a whole journey, and I was like, you know what, if Ebs can do it and I've got her behind me, backing me through everything, believing in me, I can definitely do this.
And here we are, Mama, recording a podcast together.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in. My first really big takeaway is that there is really no perfect time to start a business. And in my conversations with people, like, I'm so proud now when I tell people what I do and I say I run my own public relations company. And the first question that pretty much always follows from that is like, how did you start? How did you decide to start? And truthfully, I started Eden in January last year, after I was laid off from my job as head of comms for a tech company. And I'm really glad that I was laid off and like had no other options or escape hatches, because if the slate hadn't been wiped completely clean, then I don't think I would have had the balls or the push that I needed to start my business. This time, 2 years ago, running my own company someday was something that I always thought, yes, I would love to do that eventually. I don't know how. I don't know what that's going to look like. I thought to myself, okay, maybe I'll do it in my like 40s or late 30s. And then when I was laid off, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do it now. And I didn't even look for jobs at any other communications companies. I didn't look for a comms job at any other business because it just didn't resonate with me. And it was so resoundingly clear to me that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it in that moment. And I didn't have a plan. I didn't have, a huge financial cushion behind me. I got 4 weeks worth of severance. And I also was dealing with immigration as well. I'm not a US citizen. I'm Australian, but I live here. And I was sponsored by my former employer. So I very quickly had to spin up an LLC. I remember Googling like how do I set up an LLC? And that was what I did. And I created an LLC, and I found a way to stay in the country legally. And that was it. That was the start. You will always come up with a million reasons why it's not a good time to get yourself so far outside of your comfort zone and take a huge risk. And I'm very lucky that I did it when I did, because obviously if you have kids or you have a mortgage, or if you are the breadwinner in your house, then it gets exponentially harder to say, you know what, I'm going to start a business or I'm going to start a side hustle. But if you're looking for like pure green lights and a runway and people saying to you like, yeah, go ahead, do it, it's the perfect time, that doesn't exist. Like, it's always going to be really fucking tough. You're always going to doubt yourself. It's always going to be a huge financial risk, but you've just got to take the leap and get comfortable with that risk and be willing to endure, the financial hardship and the not knowing if it's going to pay off, because that's part of it. And, I guess my second takeaway is you need to tell people what you're doing, because people can't support you if they don't know what you're doing. And so after I was laid off, I remember starting to tell people that I was going to create an agency, and it felt so stupid and unrealistic and implausible that I was going to spin up an agency out of nothing. And here I am, a year and a half later, and our company is approaching, 7 figures of revenue. And it's like unbelievable to me how far we've come in that time. But if I hadn't have told people about my dream and my vision, then one of my really good girlfriends wouldn't have been able to send my first client my way a couple of weeks later. And I wouldn't have been able to, cover my rent, and, I wouldn't be where I am now. So when you are deciding to take that leap, you've also got to be brave enough to tell people so they can support you and give you what you need.
Absolutely. It sounds like, you're never going to get a resounding yes, but you need to find that resounding yes in you, because there's going to be so many things. Even when I started my business, it was like, come back to corporate, stay here. It's really good here. You're going to get at least 5-figure paychecks every month, twice a month. You're going to be so great at this, but you have to push through, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And the fact that you figured out how to sponsor yourself is incredible. I remember the story. I remember you having to travel, because you were meant to actually come travel with us for one of our friends' birthdays in Mexico in February. And I was really excited to see you and your husband. And you were like, listen, I can't come. I need to sort out my visa. I've just started this business. And I'm like, go girl, like you need to go do that. You need to take care of your business. And you did. And like you said, look at you now, 7 figures, on the brink of 7 figures. Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal. I'm just so pleased for you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, babe. Appreciate it. Yeah, you've been there since day one, honey.
I have. I have indeed. Great. So, I think my kind of second takeaway would be, something that people might think is a little bit silly. People might be like, oh, but you don't really need it in the beginning. And I'm here to tell you, you do. You absolutely do. And it's always have a lawyer to hand. Now, I was very structured in the way that I kind of started my business, how I was thinking about things. And, that will kind of show throughout the takeaways that I share throughout this episode. But having a lawyer to hand was the single-handed most important thing I did, because any contract I had, I made sure, even my very first contract with you, I remember saying, is my best friend Joe, he was like, listen, pay me what you can, but you need a contract. And I'm like, no, it's Ebbs. She's my best girlfriend. It's fine. Don't worry. And he was like, yeah, she is your best friend, but that's where you need it more than anyone, because, you're going into business with friends, and also how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's something I have always thought about and approached life full stop. How I do my business, how I deal with my friends, my family. I'm 110% all in on everything. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'll do it properly. Now, his contracts were, I think, $500. I did not have $500. Also, it's really important to know, I started my business off with 62 grand debt. I was deep in debt because I'm used to my really big quarterly paychecks that I used to get from corporate. I used to be able to carry debt, leverage debt, spend, pay it off. It was easy. I had been doing it for over a decade. So then when you decide to start your business, you're like, oh God, this is not going to be consistent. I need to really figure this out. Now, after my first year of business, I'm great. It's okay. But it was scary. So when people are like, you need a nest egg, you need this, you need that. No, you decide, you do it, you figure it out, and you get really creative.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And a way that I was creative was I couldn't afford the $500 per contract with Joe. So I remember for your contract, I paid him $150.
Oh.
I was like, is that good? And he was like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Like, he's like, I just want you to do stuff properly. I was like, great, okay. I was like, this guy would have definitely taken like $20. I mean, he's my best friend, but it was like a principle, it was principle. It was like, you should pay for what you need, right? And then after, I'd maybe do, now, I had like 8 clients by maybe about a month ago. So there's been a lot of contracts, renegotiations, even when we're doing this podcast, right? Contracts in place, everything. And I was like, this is going to be expensive. What can I do? And so I set up a service exchange agreement with him. So I'm providing my services for him to be able to scale his law firm, Duvel Law, which is incredible law firm. Love him.
Shout out Joey D's.
We love him. And so we do like a service exchange, and it's, this is how many hours a week I'm going to consult for you. And this is how many contracts you'll do for me. And when you're doing stuff like this with your best friends, everyone needs to help each other, but it's, how are you going to do it in a way that's going to be mutually beneficial, where you lead with respect and no one feels taken advantage of.
Right. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And I actually have a good lesson from this. So I didn't start my agency. I didn't start Eden with proper contracts. I was doing everything on like LegalZoom, and yeah, I was doing everything on LegalZoom because I thought like that's fine, right? I'm going to whip up this contract, and it'll be great. And do I even really need it? And I had a situation toward the end of last year where a client stopped paying me, and this client I think owes me between $6,000 and $10,000, no small amount of money. And I got in touch with Joe, and he's like, yeah, these LegalZoom contracts, they're like not that great. There are lots of loopholes in them. And so I've now engaged Joe to sue this former client. I'm now suing this client in small claims court. So let my mistake and like Raj's advice, seriously take it on board and do things properly from the start. I know it doesn't feel important, but if you're serious about what you're building, you don't want little leaks and things like this. Just do it properly and your future self will thank you.
Absolutely. And Ebbs, I want to tell you, you aren't the only one. Like I said, I have 8 clients. Every single one has had to deal with legal repercussions because in the beginning they were bootstrapping it. And just to save $500, one of my clients is out grand. Like I'm talking like
Yeah.
a lot of money because they didn't move into it with a proper contract in the first place. And then you have to go back in
Yeah.
and hire legal. It ends up being a lot to contend with. So just do things right in the first place.
Do things right. I also really love when we were coming up with all of our lessons for this episode, I adored how mine were like inspirational, esoteric, like believe in yourselves, baddies, and you're like coming in hot, like get a lawyer, you know? So I love how we're both coming at this. So I'm gonna come in with like another woo-woo hype up piece of advice, but this has been so profound, and it's how I push myself to show up every day, even when I don't want to, which is this idea that half of the battle is simply showing up every day and being okay with feeling like you have no fucking idea what you're doing. And this is something that I have heard all of the greats, all of the most incredible people in business again and again say that consistency is the most important thing. And by showing up every day, your efforts compound. And I know that you can't see it in a week, but if you have a look back over a year or 5 years or 10 years, that is how incredible businesses are made. And I have a really dear girlfriend who is starting a company. She's starting a really wonderful Chinese herbal tea company to help women who are postpartum. And we were chatting the other day and she's like, Ebs, I have this feeling like I have no idea what I'm doing. And I said to her, hun, that never goes away and is literally part of it. And, even the greats like, Ray Dalio and Alex Hormozi and these people who are like legends and titans of industry also, I'm sure, like are just showing up every day feeling like they have no idea what they're doing, and getting comfortable with that not knowing is just part of it. And I was listening to a podcast with, our Lord and Savior, Alex Hormozi, the other week. And if you're looking for someone who is really going to give you real talk about creating business and walking a road that is tough and sometimes very lonely and isolating, he is absolutely like my number one resource. But he said the other day that, once you're in and you've made that leap and that decision to quit your job, the next big change that happens is the one that happens inside of you, where you have to learn to persist and show up every day. And he says a lot of that looks like facing the unknown and having no idea what you're going to do and taking steps anyway under the faith that with each step you will learn a little bit more and get a little bit better, and you'll be able to see one step ahead. And that is all it is. And that has not changed my entire entrepreneurial career. This is a man who has beautiful. This is a man who's worth $100 million, has created multiple very successful businesses, is a legend. And even he talks about this idea of entrepreneurship just being like one day at a time, one step at a time, embracing the uncertainty, but knowing that what you have in your control is your ability to show up, work as hard as possible, believe in yourself. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, knowing that you really tried, you left nothing on the table. And I know that that is how I have been able to build Eden over the last year and a half.
I think that's so beautifully and eloquently said. And behind me, I actually have one of the Alex Hormozi books that you gifted me and wrote a little note in there for me. So, I also think Alex Hormozi is a great legend. In kind of addition to what you're saying, I think integrity is everything as well. Like having integrity. And what I mean by that is if you say you're going to do something, do it. I have never missed a deadline. If I say I'm going to get something done for my client by Thursday, end of day, I will make sure it's done, end of day. If it means I have to stay up Wednesday night, the whole night, wake up early on a Thursday morning, it will get done because my word is everything. Now, that's not to say you're not going to make mistakes or whatever. People make mistakes. You're going to be human. Personal life, professional life, that's fine. But if you say you're going to do something and you just, I just couldn't be bothered, or I just dropped the ball, or I just didn't feel like it, I won't do business with people like that because I do not trust you. You are not someone of your word. And so be honest with yourself and show up just for yourself. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you will then show up for your clients. And that's what people trust.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you gave it all you've got. And you are the only person ultimately that you answer to. So, yeah, just showing up every day and knowing that you're trying as hard as you can and being okay with that uncertainty, that is the road of entrepreneurship. And it's normal to feel that way. And there is no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. No.
No shortcuts. All right. Raj, tell us about bookkeeping and accounting.
Okay. Takeaway number 4, again, very practical. Okay. Set up your bookkeeping and your account systems properly. Have a qualified CPA to help you, hire a bookkeeper, and use QuickBooks. For the love of God, use a system. Your tax specialist at the end of the year, I don't miss my deadlines. Okay. I want to make sure my tax return checks come on time.
This woman does everything properly.
You. How you do one thing is how you do everything, you know? And so it's crucial that you have the right people in your corner. You can't do it yourself, right? And if you do want to do it yourself, you're going to spend 60, 80 hours, trawling through, all your co-mingled, your personal account, then your business account. Oh, I put this on this credit card, that on that credit card. Just get it right from the beginning. Everyone's going to thank you. And what you end up paying your CPA at the end of the year is going to be a lot less, because all you have to do is just generate a profit and loss statement. Say, hello, Mr. or Mrs. CPA, here's my profit and loss. This is it, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Wham, bam, we're done. That's it. It's very easy. Have your systems in place before, because if you don't, you're going to be playing catch up and cleaning up the mess. And there's no shortcut around that either.
Yeah, we don't want to make the tax man angry.
No,
and
they will find you.
They will find you. This is also to add to this. When I went into business with my business partner at the end of last year, he said to me, okay, like give us access to your QuickBooks, because, the CFO needed access to the books. And if it wasn't for your partner, Michael, who was like, when I started working with Michael and doing his PR, Michael was like, I'm only going to accept like payment and invoices from you through QuickBooks. He's like, I'm not doing anything else. Like none of this Venmo or like Zelle crap. Yeah. And I'm so glad that Michael as well, professional, was like, get your QuickBooks in order, because when I eventually did go into business with my business partner, something I didn't know was coming, I could just say, here you go, here are the books, have at it. And if I hadn't have had that set up, it could have derailed the whole deal. I don't know. So you never know what's coming up. So just
prepare.
Have your house in order.
A confused mind doesn't want to buy, right? And so even when you're going through a big business deal like that, acquisition, anything like that, you want to make it as clean and clear as possible. And yeah, shout out to my partner, Michael, because he is the one that told me to get the QuickBooks. And in the beginning, Ebbs, you were paying me through Zelle. I'm like, girl, just Zelle me. It's fine. Don't worry about it. and then my second client also Zelle. And then I was like, hold on. Oh, this isn't right.
Michael wouldn't have been too pleased about that. I'm sure he would have been like, baby, why are you still accepting Zelle?
Do better. When you know better, you do better, But yeah, but even I started off Zelle, and then I was like, hold on, this isn't a side hustle. This is my business.
Yeah. And I want to give some love to Michael, who has been an entrepreneur for longer than that. We're baby entrepreneurs compared to Michael, and Michael just like walks the path of being an entrepreneur and someone with so much credibility, and has taught both of us so much about what it means to run a business and be a professional. So we love you, Michael. If you're listening to this, you better be listening to this.
Oh, he will.
Okay, so this is something that also comes up so much when you're building a business and when you're building a team, which is this concept of hiring slow and firing fast. Mm-hmm. You, especially when you're growing a very small team, you are so dependent on every single person who is in your team. And if you bring on someone who is not pulling their weight, is not adding value, or is being deceitful, or is not living up to their end of the bargain, they've got to go, and they've got to go quickly. And this is something that I've had to learn a lot over the last year and a half. I've now fired 2 consultants, and that firing someone and having that conversation is so fucking hard. And I remember when I had to let go of someone last summer. She screwed up and made me look incredibly bad in front of a client and a journalist. And I was like, you got to go. And I psyched myself up to call her. I wrote the script of what I was going to say because I was so nervous. And she understood. And that it was, it's just business. And so I had to do it again recently with someone who I really appreciated as a person, but just wasn't really delivering the value that we needed and was making both of us look bad to the client. And I had to just tell myself, this is just business. But you really, when you're a small team, your coworker or whoever you're working with is 50% of your company, 50% of your culture. And so don't just take the first person that you see because it's going to take some pressure off you. It makes way more sense to wait and get someone who is phenomenal. And we've just brought on our first full-time employee, and I interviewed dozens and dozens of people, and I found people who I thought were amazing. And then I would put them in front of my business partner who has invested in hundreds of companies. He's a legend. And they would crumble in about 30 seconds of him because he knew the right questions to ask. And I would say, can we just get this person? Can we just get this person? And he's like, absolutely not. We only want to work with rock stars and superstars. And it was so frustrating to me because I was so overworked and so stressed out. But if I had have just brought on anyone, it would have created more work for me. And so by waiting and interviewing what felt like hundreds of people, we waited for the right person, and she has delivered so much incredible value. I'm learning from her every day, and I'm so glad that we waited for her. And so when you're ready to bring on someone, when you're building a team, get the right people around you because it's going to make your business grow. It's going to make your life easier. And if someone is pulling your team down, let go of them. Of course, personal things and health issues, and you've got to be understanding of what someone's going through, and there may be more going on. It may be part of a longer conversation, but don't be afraid to make that tough call. Don't let people walk all over you, and just remind yourself it's just business. You're going to have to make difficult decisions like this.
I think that's great advice. And especially because, how you are growing your business, it's really, really crucial for you, and it's super important for you. Now, as we discussed earlier, my business model with Zakari Consulting is different, but one of my other clients that I have where, we're reshaping, renegotiating how, the three of us all work together. So we're all going to be more heavily invested in things, which is such a beautiful thing and such an exciting thing because, I feel I really thrive well on my own, but I love being part of a team, right? It's something really special, and someone choosing to bring me in on something that they created as their baby, and for them to be like, hey, I really need you here to help me grow and scale and actually have a piece of this, I think is such is the best gift in the world. I wake up every day feeling so grateful for that opportunity. But in that business, I think we hired, and I was talking to you about this before we were even, coming onto this podcast. We've got a project where we've got 36 people delivering one project. And there's just so many people. It's so many people, so many personalities. And everyone's moving in silos, and you're like, wait, but you need to do this for this person, and that. And that's unfortunately what ends up happening when you have so many freelancers working on things, because everyone is just out for themselves, which I understand, right? Especially if you're a freelancer, freelance consultant, you're doing your thing, you're in and then you're out. But when you're building a company, you need to be really mindful of your culture.
Yeah.
It's really, really important. And you even notice it. So my example is when we're hiring freelancer consultants, even then now I'm like, okay, we need to make sure that they're a cultural fit for the brand.
You can tell someone's vibe.
With integrity. Yeah. It's not just, they're cheap and they're going to deliver this. It's going to be great. It's what's your work ethic like? Will you show up? Are you going to go above and beyond for the client? Or are you just going to do the bare minimum, get in and get out?
Right. Can I count on you to deliver this on time? Are you going to show up to meetings? Are you going to be prepared for meetings? Can I count on you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
All very important.
All very important. So You have a really hot tip, Raj, which
Yes, I
has
do.
changed my life.
Yeah. I remember this when we first started working together. So takeaway number 6, and thank me later for this, okay? Make sure your calendar is organized and you have everything split up. So what I mean by that is have your meetings split, your admin time split, your client deliverables, and when you do your deep creative work split, and then when you're going to have your breaks and your lunches. Understand when you do stuff best. So some people work really well, doing client meetings first thing in the morning, and then they want to do their deep work, creative work later in the afternoon. Some people like it the other way around, but it's really important that you do this. I'm a visual person. I know that this really helped you, Ebs, when I brought this to you. Color coding, and your calendar is going to look like a bunch of Skittles, and it's going to be really beautiful, but okay, blue means I'm going to be prepping for client work. Orange means it's personal time. Green is personal education. Purple, whatever is going to be my meetings. And you can even see, if you use Google Calendar, you can see how much time you're spending on certain things. Like, wow, okay, this week I've spent a lot of time in meetings. Wow, when am I going to do my admin? Because there's 2 things here. Task switching is a waste of your time. If you're like, oh, I'm going from this meeting and then I'm going to do a deliverable and then I'm going to go into deep creative work and then, oh, I'm back into a meeting. Your mind doesn't know how to focus. You're moving from multiple different states throughout the day. So for me, I take all of my meetings Monday through to Thursday afternoon. Thursday afternoon is when, we're recording this podcast. I'm doing deep creative work. And Friday is when I work on my business. Working in your business is great. Working in your business is going to make you money. It's going to make your clients happy. It's going to be wonderful. And you can really get lost in the sauce with that because it gives you consistent gratification. You're working in that, your clients are like, oh my God, well done. Thank you so much. And then you carry on. But if you don't work on your business, and working on your business means figuring out all of your admin stuff. What's that? Your accounting stuff, your subscriptions that you've got, cleaning out your mail, making sure your presentations are done, you're prepping for the week ahead. You aren't ever going to be able to scale. If you just want to work consistently in your business and serving clients, and you should just, continue on in corporate because that's what it is, right? It's just checking off your task list. But to actually scale your business, you need to give yourself at least a day a week to work on your business.
Yeah, 100%. And when you're really busy, it's also very easy for things to fall through the cracks. And so even just scheduling things that you need to do, have them on your calendar is really important. One thing that I also have, this concept that I've heard recently, which I really love, is this idea of a maker's schedule versus a manager's schedule. So, running an agency, obviously I'm spending a lot of time communicating with clients, communicating with journalists, having meetings. But then I also need solid blocks of time where I can read through the headlines, research clients, research competitors, come up with ideas, identify new angles, or even, put together huge campaigns. In order to do that, I really need a couple of hours of uninterrupted work so I can get in the flow. If I'm constantly checking emails and responding to people, I'm distracted and I'm not doing my best work. So, I know my business partner, he works from 5 till 11, and that is his make a schedule where he's writing, he's recording, he's doing those things for him. And then from 11, he's just in back-to-back meetings. I know Alex Hormozi does this as well. So be really diligent about how you spend your time. And it's going to make you way more effective as a human being. And it's also going to make you feel way more calm and on top of it. I have so many colors in my calendar. I'm nearly running out of color options in Google Calendar. I have 2 more color options left. I'm like, oh fuck. Once we hit clients 6 and 7, I'm out of colors. So that dovetails really nicely into my next piece of advice, which has become even more relevant now that I'm pregnant and Eden is growing, which is be ruthless about what you commit your time and energy to. And my priorities have shifted so much, even just in the last year, as Eden has become a lot more of a priority for me. I've gotten a lot more serious about building this thing. And also now that I am pregnant. So I've set really clear expectations with my husband about who I will spend time with and what's worth my time. And this is tough because, for you, it may mean scaling back on a hobby or something that you previously loved, or going out drinking with your friends less, or socializing or partying less. My husband and I last year partied our freaking faces off. We went from, where were we? I went from Ibiza to Mykonos to Burning Man, and it was like YOLO. And I had the best time ever, but I was so distracted and not at all focused on Eden. And I remember your boyfriend, Michael, who we mentioned earlier, he called me out on it. And I really appreciated that. He was like, Ebs, like, you're not showing up right now, and I love you, and like I'm calling you out on it. And I'm so grateful he did. It was hard to hear, but the people who love you the most give you that, like, they give you that advice and they will call you out on that. And so, I don't go to as many parties as I used to. I'm very selective about who I spend time with socially, because I just don't have the time. And even the other night, my husband was like, hey, like, I've organized for us to get brunch with this person on the weekend. And I was like, honey, I don't have time for that. That's great. We have this saying where it's like, we're not recruiting right now. Like, I'm not hiring. I'm not. And it sounds
that's amazing.
It sounds like such a bitchy thing to say, but I can count right now on like two hands who I have time for, just because I'm busy and I'm 7 months pregnant, and I'm not hiring. I'm not hiring any more friends. And that's the personal life. On the professional side of things, as Eden has started to pick up, I can't tell you how many emails I get from people who, I used to work with, or people who just like want to get coffee to like find synergies with me. And it's like, I know that, oh my God, the useless synergy meeting. And it's like, I don't have time. Like, if you have a specific ask or request, like, email me, and like, this sounds like really bitchy, but it's honestly the truth. And as you get busier, you need to be more and more judicious about how you spend your time. Even the other day, someone I used to work with years ago was like, hey, doing well. Like, let me know when you have time for coffee. It's like, I don't have time for coffee. I'm sorry, I don't have time for coffee with you. Like, there would be nothing to gain from getting coffee with you. I wish you all the best, but like, no. So don't be afraid to say no to things, and be really selective about who and what you give your energy to, because your energy is your most precious resource along with your health. You need to be really selective about who you give it to.
Absolutely. I mean, your time is the most finite. Your time is always what you're going to pay for. And I would say this year, I've been going through a very similar exercise where it's like, okay, the only things I'm really, really focused on are my business, my closest friends and family, and there's not space to just kiki haha all the time how I used to, because I have other things that are more important, like my business, and the other businesses that now I'm more actively involved in, that need to take priority and precedence, because I'm setting myself up for the future. So I don't even see this as a sacrifice. I just see this as a leveling up. And people are either going to make it with you, or some people aren't.
Yep.
And you need to be okay with that. Not everyone's going to make it.
Yep. Yeah. It sounds like brutal, but it's the honest truth. And when you're also trying to level up and work on yourself as a person, you need to look at where you can level up in all areas of your life.
Yeah.
And I've made very clear to my husband, who I adore, he's a social butterfly, God love him. I said to him, I'm like, baby, like, the business is the priority right now, and I want you to go and have fun and pursue what is really fun for you. And I'll sometimes be there, but I'm not always going to be there for like a random midweek dinner date with a tier 3 friend who I love. Like, I just don't, that's not a goal for me right now. My goal is business, baby, and like our marriage, and my like ride or dies. That's it. That literally is all I have time for. So sacrifice is part of this, and the people that love you and get it are going to be on the ride with you, but like, not everyone can come for the ride.
And that's okay. And
that's
feels, and I think, we spoke about this in maybe kind of our first and second episodes. It's like, you want to please everyone and everything's going to be great. And it's so fine. But as you get older and you get busier, it's okay. It's okay to be more careful with your time. just be careful with it because that's all you have.
Yeah. So while we're talking about time, Raj,
Yes.
let's talk about getting other people to do things for you.
Okay, so this is actually one of my favorites. Just takeaway number 8. Okay, so we have 2 more juicy ones after this. Just outsource whatever's going to take you too much time. I have a really, really high standard for cleaning. I love a clean place, but I'm really like even when we're prepping for the podcast, I'm like, oh, this window, I think there's some like watermarks on it. And our podcast producer was like, you're fine. Don't worry about it. And like all I can think about is like, I need to get the cleaner to come and clean the window because I have a really high standard for cleaning. So if I'm going to clean my place, it's honest to God, 12 to 15 hours. I don't want to spend 12 to 15 hours. I've got much better things to do with my time. So I will hire someone to do it. I could do my website myself. Probably it will take me about 150 hours, but I've hired someone to do it. I could do my bookkeeping. I know how to, reconcile invoices and stuff, but I don't. I have a bookkeeper. I also have an accountant. I also have a lawyer. I also have a marketing person. All of these things, I could figure it out with a book and the internet, but I don't want to. So just do what your zone of genius is and be brilliant at that. Do what's going to make you money. Don't be wasting your time doing other things that you can outsource. It doesn't make you special. It doesn't make you a hero. Oh my God. And I did the cleaning and I did the cooking and I did the shopping and I did 3 hours of my business. Like I'd rather do 16 hours of my business, get my groceries delivered, get my cleaner to come in, have my team running stuff for the website and the marketing and the law stuff and the accounting stuff, than, be the superhero to do it myself. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think like you've got to keep the main thing. And this smacked me in the face the other day where I realized that we have not been getting as much coverage for our clients as I would want. And I was like, okay, what the fuck have I been doing for like the last month? And it's just busy work and crap that like I shouldn't even be focused on. So you need to just focus on the highest leverage things that only you can do that are going to make the most difference. And it's okay with getting some help, right? Like, for example, Adam and I are thinking about, what's going to happen when our baby girl comes. And, we're lucky we can afford it, but we're going to get the cleaner in more often. And we've hired a night nurse to help us in those first few weeks. And when I go back to work after a couple of months, we're going to get a nanny because I'm obsessed with my business and I want to go back to work, but also like I can afford that support, and that support is going to allow me to continue focusing on growing Eden and looking after myself and making sure that my baby is taken care of and the house is running so that I'm not worried about that. So even if it's like little things that you're allowing to distract you during the day, things that your clients haven't asked you to do, but you just want to do and help, that can sometimes be your undoing and your downfall. So just remember to keep your eyes on the prize and get as much support as you can. And there's no shame in that.
No. Yeah. I think it's a brilliant idea. I didn't know you were getting a night nurse, but I think that's another brilliant idea. So
I don't know how to take care of a baby. What do I know about babies? I need someone who's a professional.
You're going to figure it out.
I will figure it out. But I said to my husband, I was like, what do you think about this? And he's like, whatever you need. And I was like, thank you. And it's an investment, but like, again, it's an investment that I'm willing to make for myself. So cash flow. We're talking about cash. We're talking about cash money. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business, and you always need to keep your eyes on your money. And this is something that I've again learned from my business partner. Even when you feel like, hey, we're riding high, like let's go out for these expensive client meals and let's do this and let's get Ubers everywhere. No, like your burn rate and how much cash you have on hand is literally like the lifeblood and the health of your business. And if you don't have like your eyes on your money, then that is why your business is going to fail. And so, yeah, Eden is growing quickly. We're doing really well. But a couple of big expenses for like client dinners came in, and my business partner was like, we can't afford this. And I was like, oh, you're right. So having like knowing your numbers, being realistic about your numbers, having enough money in the bank to make sure that your business can survive a couple of months if a client, stops working with you, or if there's a little hiccup with your supplies, anything like that. Just being really sensible with your money is the most important thing. And that's a lesson that I've had to learn the hard way. That said, only work with clients who you can only work with clients that are a fit and that you want to work with and that you feel good about working with, because who you work with is going to ultimately be what is the difference between your business being successful and not successful, right? And that is dependent on the freelancers you work with or the factories that you're allowing to manufacture your goods, or even in my case, the clients and the projects that you're taking on. I remember, Raj, you and I worked on this deal last summer where I had my very first client, and I worked my ass off for him. I got him amazing press coverage. Lovely, lovely man. I'm so grateful for the experience that we had together, and I will never forget him as my first client. But I put a proposal in front of him, a 6-month proposal worth $42,000, and he was nickel and diming me. And the whole experience left such a bad taste in my mouth. It was clear that this man didn't appreciate my value or the hard work that I had done for him. And I knew that he could afford my services. And I remember, Raj, you and I were talking about it, and we were pushing to get this deal in. Oh, God, and I said to you, I was like, I don't want to work with him. I was like, it just left me with such ick. Mm-hmm. I was like, I would rather walk away from this $42,000 deal. And I was lucky that I was in a position where I could do that, but I walked away. And I'm really glad I did, because I only want to work with people who see my value. Additionally, I've taken on, it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do.
At the time, I was like, okay, maybe we do this. Maybe we split payments. Maybe we try this.
Bending over backwards.
And you were just like, why are we doing this? And I said, and this is why I always say, for any deal negotiation you're going into, you have to be willing to walk away.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to do everything you can within a limit, but you have to be willing to walk away. And you were willing to walk away, and it was absolutely the right idea. And when I tell you, do you remember I was coming up with the craziest, most creative ideas, and you were like, listen, we're not doing this anymore. This is insane. It's not worth it. And you were right. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah. You have to know your value. And additionally, a couple of months ago, I took on a client who was paying $5,000 a month. And the project, I wasn't exactly clear what, I don't think we would have been set up for success, but I was like, yay, another client. We got to grow more revenue. Let's do it. And my business partner was like, no. He's like, I don't think we could be successful here. Your lowest paying clients, the people who are nickel and diming you, are always going to give you the most headache, the most trouble. They're always going to be on your back. They're always going to demand the most from you. And he said, walk away. And I was like, okay. And, we walked away, and it was the right thing, because in that time, we've got clients who are paying twice that, who respect us, who trust us, who, are easy to work with. And so only working with people who are the right fit, who respect you, who are going to be easy to work with, is important. And sometimes you got to know when to walk away.
Crucial. Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you worked that out at exactly that time. And, I remember when I was in corporate, I was, I was in tech sales, and anyone that's listening to this that has been in tech sales, the client who pays 12 grand or 15 grand for the year is nickel and diming you, wants to go on a call every week. But your other client that you close 500K, 600K, 700K, anywhere around that ballpark is just chill, is fine, it's way more easier. You had to go through all the red tape and the legal and everything, but it's always the ones who are trying to nickel and dime you. They'll do it throughout the whole relationship, and that's never going to change. And that doesn't change whether you're in corporate or you're running your own business. It's just a fact.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to take on people because you need to pay the rent, or you've got to cover your kids' school fees. I get that. But when you're in a position to like be a little bit more discerning, do that. And if someone is walking all over you, doesn't value you, walk away, because you're going to be better off in the long run without the money in your pocket. But, you know, like someone else will come along and treat you with respect and pay you much better, and your life will be easier. So yeah, I'm really grateful I had you going through that sales process with me, Raj. I learned a lot from you, and you taught me when to walk away. But I want to know what your thoughts are on selling and how people can learn this very important skill, because I know that this is your final tip.
Yes. Okay. So final number 10. And, you know, you might say I'm a little bit biased for this, but honestly, I think it's a good one. It's very important that you hire someone to either help you sell or to teach you how to sell. And the reason I say that is because your cash flow, like Eb said in her previous takeaway, is, you know, your cash flow is a bloodline of your company. And that's what's really, really important. So you could be having the best product ever, but if you aren't selling it, what's the point? And if you don't know how to sell, then if you're lucky enough to be able to hire someone to actually sell on your behalf, great. You can, you know, work on your zone of genius. But if you can't do that, then at least hire someone to teach you. So that's exactly what Ebbs did. She was like a duck to water. It was like, it didn't even take her the full 3 months. She was like 1 month to, okay, cool. I've got it. I'm in. There's some clients who I work with for like 3-4 months, and I'm just like, oh, wow. Okay. This just isn't their forte. And no matter how much you teach them, it's just not their forte. And so you have to come up with other plans for them. Maybe they have to hire someone. Maybe they need other systems and processes in place. But either way, you chop it, you slice it, whatever way you look at it, you need someone to help you with sales. It's very important. And if you can't afford to hire someone internally, or you can't afford to hire someone to teach you, teach yourself. And some of my favorite books, and these will all be in the show notes, but I really love The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy, $100 million offers by Alex Hormozi, and his second book, which is $100 million leads. I really like Deep Work by Cal Newport. Any books by Cal Newport, I actually think are really great. I've got a few behind me. The Challenger Sale by Matthew Dixon, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. All great books that I recommend. And I also read a lot. I think it's really important to read. But while you read, I also get the audiobook. So I'm listening and I'm reading and I'm also taking notes. So then you're taking in the information in 3 ways. It's very important that you're not just listening and, okay, cool. You're not really learning then. So
amazing.
That's my little additional tip. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God. We could go on and on and on. And I'm really excited for you to talk more about sales. And I know you're going to share all of that wisdom in another episode. We will do Selling 101. And I cannot wait for that, because I literally learned everything I know about sales from you. Out of everything we've shared in the episode today, what do you think is, and we're also going to put all of these tips in the show notes. So baddies, don't, feel like you've got to remember all of that. But what would be your top most valuable overall lesson that you have learned over the last 1.5 years that you think people should really pay attention to?
My top lesson outside of these 10,
or included in these 10.
Okay, the one I was going to give is partially kind of included in this. So what I was going to say is believe in yourself and rely on yourself. No one is going to look after you the way you can look after yourself. No one is going to come save you. Mm-hmm. No one is going to come do this. You have to do it yourself. And that actually really ties into my favorite takeaway from here, which was your first one, which is there's no perfect time to start a business. So as long as you believe in yourself, you'll be just fine. Because no one's going to come believe for you, okay? You have to do it.
Yes. No one is going to believe in you more than you have to believe in yourself, basically.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Showing up for me is the secret to success. Like just being willing to get your teeth kicked in every freaking day. Just dust yourself off and say, I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to be back in this fucking chair tomorrow. And we're going to do it all over again.
Do it again.
And no one can stop me. And literally just that alone is a superpower. So that is my top tip. What an action-packed episode.
I think so too. I think we did great.
We did great. So, baddies, thank you so much. If you got to the end of the episode with us, I really, truly hope that you took something from this episode. We have learned so much over the last year and a half, and grown. And we are here for you. We are with you. If you have any questions, please, we are on Instagram. I think we're on Instagram. We're on all the platforms.
Reach out to us.
Reach out to us.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us your favorite takeaway. We are on Instagram. I believe it's Bad Girls Guide to Business. We will put a link in the show notes. Send us a DM. And if you have really enjoyed this episode or our previous episodes, subscribe so you can get future tips. You can keep up with us, and so we can go on this journey together. We love you, baddies. We believe in you. We are so happy you're here on this journey with us, and you're crushing it.
Thank you so much for your time, baddies.
We
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.